Chapter 5, Lotus Eaters. How are you getting on? I noticed some of you have said, oh, mine doesn't have chapters in my book, or my Kindle version has not got chapters. Yeah, that's right. You know, mine doesn't either. Like, you'll see mine, I've just written it in, Lotus Eaters and the stars. The book is just split up into sections, and it's pretty difficult to navigate anyway. But if you Google, you know, chapters of Ulysses, you'll see they're all listed. So whenever you get a break in the text that gives you a clue that it could be a new chapter, mark it in, because it should make things easier. So this episode, whatever, part is Lotus Eaters. And I'm not too ashamed to admit, I fell off a bit last night. I was just thinking, fucking hell, like, man, this is too hard to understand. It's kind of like, you know, it's bad enough kind of understanding your own thoughts, but then to have to understand somebody else's thoughts, and they jump from one thing to another, it gets pretty, you know, pretty mad. And I had to hold on, but then I came back round to it. I think the thing is with Ulysses, you've got to read it and concentrate, which sometimes people, that is not the point of reading for a lot of people. But you do have to kind of keep that focus to keep hanging on to the bars of the climbing frame. If you don't, and you start thinking about stuff like me, like last night I was thinking about all sorts of shit, you know, going on. You can't just, you're going to get to the end of the page and think, what the fuck did I just read? It just washed over you. And you know, you can go back and you can reread it, but I wouldn't bother. Just let it wash over you. Anyway, getting to the ins and outs of chapter 2. Again, I'm not going to go into it in massive detail, because that's what the Sparks notes are there for, which I'll post underneath the video. And you can watch Chris Rich's video, which is brilliant. But to give you a tiny little synopsis, we are still sticking with Leopold Bloom. And we're still with this guy, and we see him like walk through town and go to some shops. And you learn more about his character. I think he's still hammering home that pervy, you know, he's got that pervy edge to him that I don't like, you know. He speaks to a guy that he meets in the street, and like while this guy's talking about Dignam's funeral, he's like looking at this woman as she's getting out of this cab, you know, and he's like, watch, silk flash, rich stockings, white watch. A heavy tram car honking its gong slew between, lost it, curse your noisy pug nose. And he's kind of like, he goes into the post office and he's behind a woman and he's watching her. And the very fact as well, he goes into the post office, right, to collect a letter, which is written to Henry Flower Esquire, right? And that is him. So he's got a pseudonym and he's fucking writing to other people, not his wife. Yeah, he's having like relationships via letter with other women. And in this letter, which he opens, you know, further when he goes back into town, he opens the letter as he's going and as he's walking through town, and he's got a flower in it, this letter, and the letter's telling him off, you know, for being rude in the last letter. So it's he said, you know, and this woman's getting really into him, you know, Henry, when will we meet? I think of you so often, you have no idea. I've never felt myself so much drawn to a man as you. You know, and it's crazy. He's just leading up the garden path. And he's thinking to himself, oh, I'm never ever going to meet her and stuff. So yeah, we get a bit more of a sense of like, I feel like Bloom is very sexually frustrated, you know. He is married, right, with this wonderful wife, Molly, who's a great singer, you know, but it's not enough for him. He is always looking at women, you know, whether in a queue, whether getting into a car, walking down the street. Even later in the chapter, he's saying, oh, he's going to pop inside the church because it's a good way to meet new women, you know. And he's writing to other women. So that's how I feel, you know. He's kind of locked in a marriage that doesn't feel very, you know, it's a bit of a loveless marriage maybe, and he's a bit sexually frustrated. That's how I see it. How do you see it? Also, so yeah, he goes into a church a lot of it's his thought processes, but interestingly, I thought what was quite interesting is the difference between Stephen Dedalus's thought processes and Bloom's. Bloom, you do get to know what he's thinking, but he also talks to himself a lot, you know. And you'll see, I'm just trying to find a bit that I could maybe read to give you an example. Let's have a look. He walks southward along Westward Row, but the recipe is in the other trousers. Oh, and I forgot the latchkey too. Bore this funeral affair. Oh well, poor fellow, it's not his fault. When was it I got it made up last? Wait, I changed the sovereign, I remember. 1st of the month it must have been, or the 2nd. Oh, we can look it up in the prescriptions book. And it's that way that he's actually talking to himself. Whereas with Stephen, I think the thought stream has just been thoughts, you know, Stephen thinking. But like Bloom actually has conversations with himself, which I'm sure we all do. Like, I mean, I certainly do around the house. Oh, what have I done with that? You know, and David's like, what the fuck are you on about? And it's like, oh, don't worry, I'm talking to myself. And that's what I feel Bloom is like in his head. Also, interestingly, just I'm just going to finish now because I'm not going to blether on about this. There's too much to go into, but the poeticness of this, you know. I mean, he goes into the chemist, right, to get a prescription for his wife. And he talks about drugs and, you know, working in a chemist. And he says, drugs aid you after mental excitement. Lethargy then. Why? Reaction. A lifetime in a night. Like, how fucking poetic is that? A lifetime in a night. Wow. And again, he goes, just lastly in the chapter, you know, so he's goes to the post office, picks up this letter, natters to some of people that he meets in town, and he talks about Dignam's funeral, and he says to this guy says to him, oh shit, I can't make the funeral, do you mind putting my name down in the book as if I did attend it? And Bloom's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, which is a bit cheeky really. And it just goes to show kind of like the vacuous nature of friendships sometimes, you know, like, oh, put my name down as if I went, but I don't really give a shit enough to actually go to this, you know, funeral. And anyway, he goes to church, as I says, and then he goes to buy a soap, a lemon soap. And at the end of the chapter, he sort of fantasizes about being in the bath. And again, it's the poeticness of Joyce describing Bloom's cock. So I'll end with this. He foresaw his pale body reclined in it at full, naked in a womb of warmth, oiled by scented melting soap, softly laved. He saw his trunk and limbs rippled over and sustained, buoyed lightly upward, lemon yellow, his navel, bud of flesh, and saw the dark tangled curls of his bush floating hair of the stream around the limp father of thousands, a languid floating flower. Poetic or what? A fucking cock being called the limp father of thousands. I hope that you use that in future. Let's hear what you've got to say about it. I feel like I struggled a bit with this chapter. Just felt like I wanted Bloom to shut the fuck up at times, and that I wasn't really asked about like his trailing thoughts, but I think it's okay to get frustrated with Ulysses, you know, it's all right. Yeah, come on, there must be subtext in there. There are academics out there who know miles better than me, who probably can shed a lot of interesting stuff on this chapter. Come on, crew, keep on up. 10 pages again tonight, we can do it.